Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. And you are attending.
Mike?
I suppose I need this, right? So you are attending tonight's forum for the Pullman City Council. And our candidates from left to right is Ward 1, Bryan MacDonald, John Mark Mahnkey. I got it. Ward 2 is DiDi Lubash and Trevor Vance. Ward 3, John Cassleman and Tawny Szumlas. And you know, I practiced this too. So anyway, sorry, Tawny. So I am your moderator tonight. My name is Tricia Grantham. I am a member of the League of Women Voters in Pullman. And thank you all for being here. Really, really appreciate your interest and your involvement. So this forum will be recorded and available on our website, which is lwvpullman.org, and it'll be available in a day or two.
Tomorrow before noon.
Yeah, this
Tomorrow
guy is amazing. It'll probably be ready tomorrow.
Tomorrow before noon.
So there you go. That's great. So we begin all of our meetings with a nonpartisan statement. And here we go. And on come the glasses. The League acts in support of or in opposition to selected governmental issues which its members have studied. It does not support or oppose candidates, factions, or political parties. League members as individuals are urged to work in the political party of their choice in order to protect the League's nonpartisanship policy. Guidelines regarding the political activities of the Board of Directors are reviewed frequently. The League is fully committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion in principle and practice. These concepts are central to our current and future success in engaging all individuals, households, communities, and policymakers in creating a more perfect democracy. We acknowledge and honor the sovereignty of the First Peoples of the Palouse region and their descendants, including our neighbors, the Nez Perce and Palouse tribes, the Confederated Tribes of the Colville Reservation, and Coeur d'Alene tribes. So I'm going to just let you know what is in your chair, a couple of things that you will find as handouts. The first one that has some dates is our upcoming educational opportunities on the topics that you see, media literacy, Unite We Rise, which is a campaign from the National League that the state has embraced, and now we're going to have a presentation locally from our state league president, who will be with us on Zoom. And then we will have in January the campaign finance information. So some educational opportunities, and then the other information is how to join the League. If you aren't currently a member, please consider joining us with a membership. So we would appreciate that. So on to some more housekeeping type questions. So I'm gonna go ahead and go through these procedures. So any questions that you have for our candidates, you received a card and hopefully a pencil on your chair. If you would write them, there will be an opportunity to have them picked up. We have folks that will come around, just hold them up, and we'll pick up your cards with your questions. And then these lovely ladies here will do a kind of a combining of questions and categorizing questions and combining questions that are similar in topic, and so we will get to as many of your questions as we possibly can. And so given that we may not get to your question, I would encourage you to stay around a little longer and visit with the candidates after our forum tonight. So we will begin with opening remarks, and we ask that, and I know you're all well-behaved adults, but we do ask for no booing or cheering or the like in terms of behavior. So nothing disruptive, in other words. So the opening remarks and the questions and the closing remarks will be timed. And we did a little change because of the number of candidates that we have. So our opening remarks will be for 2 minutes. And I'm going to start with Bryan and go down the line. The responses to our questions from your cards will be 1 minute response. And then closing remarks will be another 2 minutes. So that's how we'll roll tonight. And I think I'm going to hold off on the last part until the very end. So anyway, let's start with some questions. Let's start with some intros. So Bryan, it's all yours.
Okay, I'm Bryan MacDonald. I'm running for City Council Ward 1. I came to Pullman a little over 30 years ago, and I came as a student. And since that time, I've played a whole bunch of different roles that I think are important to relative to others comparable to others in the community. So I've been a student, I've been an early career at SEL, I've grown into a senior leadership role at SEL and been through multiple phases throughout that. I've been a parent of kids in the public schools here. I've been a parent of, I'm a Coug dad. My daughter graduated last year. Beyond that, my wife is actually the shop manager at B&L downtown, and she went through the pandemic. She went through the downtown construction, and so I've got some perspective from that. And again, my daughter went to WSU, and so I bring all those perspectives. And what I see is a real opportunity for us to think bigger about what's possible for Pullman. And what I really mean about that is we're a good small college town. And I think looking at how do we shift from a good college town to a benchmark that other communities can rely on. Make it easier for those grads that have an idea. How do they start that here? If you're new in your career, how do you get a house here? If you're trying to run a business downtown, how do you make that happen? How does the city help with all of that mindset? And for me, that's what's really important, is just figuring out how to have that customer-focused mindset and that focus on that vision of the best version of a college town, the benchmark for others. So,
thanks, Bryan. So, John, just 1 second, I forgot to mention, if you could silence or turn off your cell phones, that would be much appreciated. Thank you so much. John?
Unless you're like me, in which case my silenced cell phone rings through my wife's call anyway, so I was caught off guard earlier by that. So to begin, my name is John Mark Mahnkey. I've lived in Pullman for approximately 45 years. I have traveled and visited and lived in other places, but I've always come back here and considered this home. I'm a PHS graduate, and I am a fan of the Cougars. I've spent time over on the coast going to school and working, and as I said, I've always returned to Pullman because this is home. I've been involved in local different events, things with the Kiwanis. I've been involved with the Parks and Rec Department. I'm the MC of the local egg hunt every Easter. I've been part of the Lentil Fest parade. I've been a co-announcer with Glenn Johnson. I'm usually up by Rico's and he's down by Sam Guile. I've spent a lot of time just basically working with the Humane Society and working with many other local groups. I decided that maybe it was time to be a little more proactive instead of being a supporter of what was happening. Maybe help things happen and make Pullman a better place to live. Ultimately, that's what we all want. That's what everybody sitting at this table wants. I've been endorsed by the Whitman County Democrats, by Washington Transportation First, Local 4591, the the group of academic students, the WSU case is, we'll keep it simple, and also the Planned Parenthood advocates of Greater Washington and Northern Idaho. The thing about endorsements is it's really nice to know there are groups of people out there that think that you are the best choice moving forward, not for their means necessarily, but for the town of Pullman, the city of Pullman moving forward. So I am very proud to have those endorsements, and I'm also very proud to be sitting up here with every one of these people.
Thank you, John. So we are moving on to Ward 2, DiDi.
Yeah, hi, I'm DiDi Lubash. Okay, and I'm running because I care deeply about this interconnected community, and most importantly, how we support our most vulnerable community members. I wasn't originally from Pullman, but this community has become my home in a way that Spokane and Redmond before it never did. It was here that I was able to really find myself. I'm a legacy coup. My grandmother graduated here in 1966, and my parents actually met at an event here in Pullman while attending. Now I'm studying at WSU. I study women, gender, and sexuality studies with a focus on queer studies, and digital technology and culture with a focus on digital diversity. To go with the community and sense of belonging that I found here, like my parents, I also found love in Pullman. I'm most focused on the tangible ways that we can support our community members, including how we provide accessible transportation, affordable housing, and food security for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, DiDi. So, Trevor, go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Trevor Vance, and I'm running for Pullman City Council Ward 2. I've lived in Pullman for 10 years, and I came here first as a student at WSU, and now I'm a project manager at SEL. And Pullman's a place that I've grown and built a community, and I'm committed to making change. I believe firmly in a servant leadership mindset, and over the years I've volunteered with nonprofits, theaters, food banks, and whether it's like a supply drive, coordinating volunteers, or working behind the scenes, I've seen how much good can come when we come together and support each other. And I think that city government really should reflect the same. It should be grounded in empathy, accountability, and action. In my professional work, delivering results on time within a budget and through collaboration with good communication isn't an exception, it's a standard. And I want to bring that approach to City Council. I want to help expand small businesses downtown, grow the economy, and strengthen connections between neighborhoods, nonprofits, WSU, and local industry. I think that together we all can come together and build a Pullman that works for everybody, and I would be honored to earn your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Trevor. And on to Ward 3, John.
Thank you. Hello, my name is John Cassleman. I was born and raised here in Pullman, Washington. I'm a PHS grad and Washington State University grad. And after Washington State, I moved all around the state of Washington. Lived in Vancouver, Mansfield, tiny little town of 300 people, Bellingham, and came back here about 8 years ago because I wanted to be here. My family and I wanted to be here to raise our kids here because of the people, because of many of the faces I see in the audience who I recognize from my childhood, and whose first names I don't know because I always referred to them as Mr. So-and-so or Mrs. So-and-so, and having to relearn, and it's been a wonderful experience. I've loved the campaign so far because I get to meet people, talk to people, listen to them, and learn things, and those are two of my favorite things to do. As far as my professional experience, I managed the K-12 Education Outreach Program at Schweitzer Engineering Laboratories. And until this year, I had no direct employees, which meant that I was managing over 100 volunteers. So with no authority, operational authority over anybody, I was still able to corral them to come together and deliver fantastic STEM programming to thousands of kids every year. This past year, we reached over 4,000 students. So I'm very proud of that work and building that program for Schweitzer Engineering Laboratories. People here in Pullman, I've learned, are very happy with Pullman, but there's also frustration. And I think that's why we saw so many candidates come out, and that's what I'm committing to, understanding that frustration. This is not going to be a surprise, right? Downtown, housing affordability, these are things we've been talking about, been hearing about 4 years ago, 8 years ago, 12 years ago. What are we going to do that is different, right? I look through our comprehensive plan and say, yep, we're still working on these problems. Why aren't we able to solve them? And I think a big part of that's going to be prioritizing, but an even bigger part of that is going to be bringing people together, leveraging coalitions, partnerships, groups that already exist and are already doing good work. My goal is to bring them together. Thank you.
Thank you. Tawny Szumlas.
Perfect. All right, everybody. My name is Tawny Szumlas, and I am running for City Council in Ward 3. And I just want to take 2 seconds and tell you guys that everybody up here is amazing. I've gotten to know all of them, and there's no bad choices up here, just so you guys know. Okay, I am a 6th generation Pullmanite. My family moved here after the Civil War, and we've owned small businesses here in Pullman ever since. I currently own what my dad took over Rico's in 1980, and I currently own that, and I steered that through COVID, and I steered it through the downtown renovation, and I didn't lose one employee through all of that. It was really important to me to be a good leader, and it's really important to me to bring good customer service to what I do. And I'm also raising my family here. I have 3 kids. My oldest son is special needs, so we work with Special Olympics and that sort of stuff, and then my youngest 2 are in high school. And really what I wanted to do was to bring the leadership that I feel I've learned at Rico's and the customer service that I've learned over the years at Rico's and take that to the city and to help them get to yes, which we hear that all the time. But that I think is really what's missing, and I would really love to be in the room helping to make that happen. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. So, we are ready for some questions. And I'm going to start on the other end of the table. And my first question will be for Tawny. Tawny, how would you describe the office of City Councilor?
All right, this is something I've had to spend a lot of time learning. City councilor is somebody that is going to listen to what people want. Then when they hear something that they will bring it up in council, like we think we should move this forward, like the short-term rental, we think we should move that forward, or a vacancy ordinance, we should move that forward. Then 2 people have to agree on that, and then it gets advanced. Then City Council will direct staff to go and come up with different plans. They come back to them and then they vote on it. So that's kind of like the nutshell of what the job is, but I think it's so much more. I think it's really listening to the people in town, interacting with the people in town, and trying to do your best to meet the needs of a very diverse community. Thank you.
So, John, same question. How would you describe the office of City Councilor? And just remind everyone 1 minute.
From a legal perspective, it is voting on policy, so making the rules or unmaking them, and voting on budgets. So essentially prioritizing the projects of Pullman and the programs of Pullman by using money, right? So those are the 2 main responsibilities. That, of course, doesn't describe the human aspect of the job, which I think is listening. I think it's listening to a wide variety of people. I think it's hearing and reading between the lines, so not just hearing what they're saying, but also understanding what's that deeper need that they're getting at. I think it is being a representative of Pullman to the community itself, but also externally. I think Bryan said it well, and I agree with this, that Pullman should be a leader, especially in spaces of education, agriculture, where other people are looking at us and saying, wow, I wish we could be like Pullman. And so I think that's another part of it. And then lastly, I'd say that the role is, getting people to come together, work together. The city council is the nexus, right? We represent all the wards coming together to make those decisions as a single body.
Thanks, John. So, Trevor,
Thank you.
can you repeat the question?
And I don't think so. Describe the office of City Council, correct? It's largely legislative, right? And working on getting inputs and representing the constituency that we represent, but Pullman as a whole, and complementing the mayor and that branch is more executive. So like John and Tawny have mentioned, right, passing laws and approving budgets is largely what we would be doing as city councilors.
Yeah, so as has been said, city councilors vote on budgets and ordinances, make and unmake, not quite laws, but I think the most important thing that a city council member does is that representing nonpartisanly every member of their community, every voice they hear, and being there talking to people and being able to bring those voices and make them into legislation instead.
Well, when we all started this journey, we all did an interview called All Roads Lead to Pullman. Most of us did. I don't think you actually made it to that one, but anyway. But we were all kind of dinged on it, except for John Cassleman, who nailed it, according to the host. City council member is basically an elected official. I did take notes because I wanted to get this exactly right. Who serves as a local legislator representing the interests of their constituents, working together as a body. The city council is responsible for setting policies, passing local laws, and overseeing the city's budget to guide the priorities of municipal services. Now, that would be the dictionary definition. The true definition has been already stated a couple times. In fact, John and Trevor and Tawny and DiDi all nailed it. You need to listen to and represent the people of Pullman. You need to be their voice. You're the one that interacts between them and the city, the legislative body who actually does things like setting policy and setting the budget and making sure everybody is basically fully represented, everybody in the city. So, in a nutshell, that's it.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess it's pretty easy if you're the last one. So budgets and rules, and then I think, like everyone else said, I think there's being in touch with the people and figuring out how to make sure. It's a big responsibility, right? I've heard it's a boring job. I heard it's a not important job. It seems really both of those things a lot. And so, and how you do it is really what's important. So when we're thinking about like becoming that benchmark of the best college town that others are inspired to follow, how do you capture that vision and use that as you set rules and as you spend money, and you do that in a way where like the whole city government sees where we're headed and embraces that culture from a customer-focused perspective. And that's really what I see of city council.
Thank you. Hang on to that mic, because in order to avoid confusion, I'm going to just go right back down the line here. What is the first thing you'll do as a city council member?
Yeah, so actually I think one of those things that'll be early on already got set for us at the last city council meeting. So they talked about short-term rentals, and they went out of their way to say, let's bring this back when we have the new people on city council on there. And you know, I think short-term rentals are important, but I think they're important as part of that bigger picture. And like you're probably going to get sick of me saying about that benchmark for the best college towns in the country. And how do you solve those problems? And one of those things is like, how do you make it easier for people to come and visit? There's gonna be popular weekends. There's ideally gonna be even bigger thinking, like as there's incubators, as there's people that wanna come in and leverage some of the skills and talent at the university. Like we need to figure out how to make it easier for people to come and visit. And really, I think that's, again, part of that bigger picture.
Well, as a city councilor, you can't do it all yourself. You have to rely on the other city councilors to come to a consensus. So doing it, what I would do is not exactly how I'd put it. What I'd focus on, however, I do have 3 top priorities I work with. Addressing vacancies downtown is one. We should continue to explore ways to discourage vacancy, encourage building owners to find paying tenants in lieu of things like choosing tax write-offs whenever possible. Bringing new business, encouraging new business to the downtown area, including we could use business incubators. We could find other ways to encourage new business and startups to locate downtown. There's new innovation happening all the time. 3 of the people that are up here work for a company that started here in Pullman, SEL, and has grown to be worldwide. And there are other people in Pullman that can do that. So we should do everything we can to encourage them, including small business owners like Trevor, for example, and his short-term rental. The third is promoting Pullman. We live in a wonderful city. Let's see how many people we can bring here to live and to work, because honestly, civic growth goes hand in hand with economic growth.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, so kind of like what John Mark has just said, I want to focus on 3 things, 3 first issues, and that's going to be housing, transportation, and food security. With that said, I think transportation is going to come with the next budget and hiring more drivers and getting more routes, where we can immediately start looking into implementing the plans or ideas for either a mobile food pantry or mini food pantries with mini fridges around the areas furthest from the CAC food pantry. We could also work with Kooks Feeding Kooks.
Thank you. Trevor?
Thank you. And I think, Bryan, you hit you hit it right on the head with STRs, and I think you're right. That is going to be something that's going to be focused on coming up with this city council that's elected in. And that's going to be a lot of work, and I think that city council, planning commission, should definitely take the time to shepherd this through in a way that is listening to complaints that folks have, the issues they have with it. I think something else that I'd like us to focus on when it comes to downtown, I'm sure this will be brought up more, is this idea of a vacancy ordinance, or kind of how do we get businesses downtown, right? We have a beautiful downtown, and we just finished that project, but we don't have as many businesses and making it a destination to get there. I'd love us to see, students that are in the entrepreneurial program come and work with businesses from like a marketing standpoint, and providing, their ability and going through school to help these businesses brand themselves and market and be stronger. And then I think data-driven decisions and small first experiments are crucial.
Thanks. John?
First thing is I'm thanking the people who elected me to office, reached back out to the city councilors I've spoken to so far, and talked to them. But I know the question's more about the issues, and the first thing I do is make Pullman's strategic plan, the council's goals and plans, visible. They're currently not, to my knowledge. I've been looking, and the closest thing we've got is the comprehensive plan, and it's vast. And I think we need to get Pullmanites on the same page, working toward the same vision, toward the same goals, which we've been talking about. Right? The city council has gathered, the city has gathered Pullmanites' ideas, opinions, dreams for a long time. So I'm going to get to prioritizing. So the first thing I'm going to do is get right to that. Corralling the vision. We need all hands on deck to achieve the goals that we're looking for Pullman. Thank you.
Thank you. Tawny?
All right, well, I actually didn't wait. So when Eric Vajerin brought up the vacancy ordinance, that's going to be a thing they talk about next year, I sent an email and I said, whether I win or lose, I want a spot on that team. When as far as like incubator spaces, I reached out to Sean Miller, who is the economic coordinator, and I said, let's start building that. And I got into a room with Clint Cole and Sean Miller and a bunch of other people, and we're already working on that. And then when it comes to housing, I joined Megan Guido's Pro Housing Group. I've already done it. So like my first step is already done, so it's about my second step if I get into that place, which will just be helping and supporting and learning as much as I can.
Hang on, Tawny. Here is the next question.
Oh.
Just for you. What specific ideas do you have to alleviate the budgetary deficit facing Pullman?
Okay, I just put out a video about this. I really think, obviously we're gonna have to do things about budgets, but I really think that we have to get better about getting money coming in. I'm a small business owner. I have to get people into my building so that I can pay my bills. And I do that through advertising and all sorts of like outreach. And I just don't think the city's doing that. We need to build homes so we can get the property tax. We need to get businesses going here so that we can get the sales and use tax. Obviously, we're in a budget shortfall, but instead of focusing only on what we're not gonna have, let's start talking about how we're gonna get more.
For me, it's going to be about finding efficiencies. My initial impulse is not to raise taxes. I think we want to use that as a last resort, or as a resort where when we're not, where we're unable to achieve it, or where we are maxed out. I think some people, well, let me give you an example. I was talking with a downtown business owner who was, I think, frustrated or upset about the sidewalk fees and things, and he asked to talk to the city, and he said 11 people from the city came to talk to him. There is no way that should be the case. That to me speaks to lots of room for efficiency. So I think we need to break down the silos within our city staff. We need to turn our city into a problem-solving machine. I think we've got big problems down the road. I think, aquifer is one that I'll probably speak to later on. Childcare crisis, we've got people leaving Pullman or not entering the workforce because childcare is not affordable. I think we need to, during this time of tight budgets, we need to focus on the fundamentals.
Thank you, John. Trevor?
Yeah, I think what we really need to focus on and work on is making it easier to do business in Pullman, and kind of increasing that tax base of businesses. We are in a unique position being so close to Moscow, and a lot of times when maybe someone has an idea to start a business or a storefront or brick and mortar or whatever it is, it's maybe a little bit easier to just go right across the border. It's 15 minutes away, cheaper labor, cheaper everything over there, and that's tax revenue that's lost here, and that would be something that I think could help. I think, John, I think you hit it. Efficiency is super important. Having good inside look into the inner workings and trying to see where we can trim and where we can strategically make an advantage. I think it's super important to, like 11 people, that's just way too many. I'm still hung up on that, that's crazy. So efficiency, STRs, that lodging tax is huge for the city as well.
Thanks, Trevor. DiDi?
Yeah, so what initially immediately came to mind to, I guess, all of us was increasing department auditing and trying to find holes in our spending right now and look for more efficient ways to spend. But I also want to talk about exploring departmental overlap, and by that I mean if we had more people, and I know we have a lot of people riding scooters and bikes, but if we could continue to encourage that, then there would be less wear and tear on our roads. We wouldn't need to repair them as often. We would see the same effect from buses, which do considerably less damage to roads than the amount of cars it takes to transport the same amount of people. So by reallocating our budget a little, I think we can streamline it and make it more efficient.
Thank you. John?
Could you repeat the question
I
one more
sure
time,
can.
just as a refresher? I'll make sure I'm answering the right thing.
What specific ideas do you have to alleviate the budgetary deficit facing Pullman?
That is going to be a challenge, isn't it? Nobody wants to raise taxes. Nobody wants to put more burden on the businesses or more burden on the residents. The only other way is to find cuts, and cuts that are acceptable. Nobody is gonna like every cut, and the difficult part is deciding where we need to cut. Now, there is a possibility there are departmental inefficiencies, or I mean, DiDi had a great idea there. Everybody has had great ideas. One thing I'm thinking is perhaps we look at reducing, just for the short term, planning on bringing all this stuff back, but just reducing some of the services we have just to tide us over, so to speak, until we can bring things back into balance. Instead of 3 swim classes taught by Parks and Rec, we go to 2. Or instead of one event that happens for 2 nights, we bring it back to 1. I can't really get into specifics because I haven't explored this in depth, but that's the general idea, is finding ways we can make small cuts that will make a decent impact and will get us through the crisis until we can actually solve it.
Thank you.
So I think we're going to run into, the university is going to be having cuts, and it's having cuts, right? We need to get careful about our spending because we do have that overage. And I think that the way we do that is we think about how can we get more efficient and more creative. I'll use a kind of a cheesy example, but it's one that I think we could replicate in a lot of different places as we break down silos and work together. So a couple of months ago, a consultant came with Parks and Rec, and they talked about how we didn't have any rectangular fields on basically the north end of town. And if you talk to parents that have kids in soccer or whatever, that they actually talk about that it is possible to play soccer on the university fields with the fancy turf and the night lights and everything. But it's kind of a pain, right, because of the scheduling for the city. What we need is way cheaper than building and maintaining another rectangular field. How do we, maybe it's scheduling software, maybe it's something like that. What can we do to get the most out of everything that we have? Because the university is going to need it, the city is going to need it, and we're not going to want to get field cuts as much as just get more efficient.
All right, Bryan, here's another question. If the election leads to 3 SEL employees on the council at the same time, will there be any conflict of interest?
So I actually never talked to Trevor before before we all started running for city council, and I ended up talking to him through city council methods first. So I think we all chose to run for our own reasons and on our own. And I think we all have heard all of Ed's teachings over the years, and so we all like the idea of being efficient and being collaborative and thinking outside the box and asking hard questions to make sure we're solving the real problem. You'll see some of that, I think, from all of us. But in terms of like what's our priorities and how do we think, or is there collusion? There's none of any of that.
Well, this is going to be a challenge because I do not work at SEL and I can't speak to that really well. So I'll leave it to them. But what I will tell you is I did mention earlier in this program, I did mention that there were 3 people up here that worked at SEL. I hope that didn't, precipitate that question. The truth is, I have no doubt after meeting with all these people and, well, with Trevor, with Bryan, and with John, I have no doubt that they're out here to do the best they can. Is it true that Ed endorsed you and John? Yes, he came out in the paper and did that. But, I would expect any employer to do that for their employee. Obviously, I work for Pullman Radio, full disclosure, and I can't have Bill and Evan do that because then they wouldn't be the impartial press, or as impartial as they are. Yeah, your mileage may vary. But, I would never ask them for that, and I would never expect that. But, in the case of SEL, I can totally understand that. And I expect that they will be, if they are elected, they will be good city councilors, every single one of them.
Thank you.
Yeah, I also don't work at SEL, but like I'm sure most of us in this room, I have family or friends who do. And I don't think that working at SEL, especially with these three working in such different parts of SEL, that it would be like that they're colluding, that it would be a conflict. Because yeah, we all have another job.
Thanks. Trevor, go ahead.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with the sentiments here, and as hard as that was to hear from you, Bryan, it's true. We did never talk before running. Actually, my first conversation with Bryan was like the day after I filed, and I was trying to get my site to work at work, but it kept getting blocked and taken down. And he messaged me, he's like, I'm trying to get your site back up. I'm also thinking about running. I'm like, do it, you should do it. At least there'll be someone else in this with me. And, you know, I think it definitely speaks volumes to the kind of problem solving that we do at SEL, that there's three of us up here making it through to the general election. Everybody up here is I think, great problem solvers and have great ideas. But I think we all kind of encounter that on our day-to-day with the problems that we experience. And I think that if there were ever something that came to council for us to vote on that had an impact on SEL, I think we would do the appropriate thing and recuse ourselves if necessary. So.
Thank you. John?
Thank you. First, John, Mark, and DiDi, I'm honored that you feel that way. Second is, you can talk to any teacher I had growing up. You can talk to my parents from I don't know what age. Contrarian is my middle name. I intentionally sought not to seek endorsements from either political party. I did not seek any endorsements from SEL. I did not ask SEL for help. I have had conversations with Bryan and Trevor. I've had conversations with Tawny. I had conversations with Carl and Shay back when they were running. I'm committed to Pullman. That's why I came back. That's why I'm running. I've shared a number of times. People always ask you why you run, and I've shared transparently. You ask anybody who knows me, I'm radically transparent. I will tell you the truth. I will be real with you. I think that's part of the reason I'm running, is I believe in government transparency. And then I would also just push back slightly and say that I had never heard that question about WSU, right? Like, just by virtue of the number of candidates who are running, we're going to have some significant proportion of WSU or SEL on the table regardless. Thank you.
Yeah, SEL is a successful company for a reason, and part of that reason is the strong culture that they have. And Pullman would be so lucky to have 3 people from SEL on their city council, because they would bring that culture with them. Obviously, I don't work there and I'm running against somebody who works there, but I mean, we would be lucky.
Thank you. And you can hang on to the mic. How will you create or work toward a more affordable Pullman, particularly for renters?
Ooh, okay, I'm really excited about that. There's 2 things. One, as I mentioned, I've already reached out to Megan Guido, and I've already taken a seat as a non-council member on her pro-housing group, which is working with a land trust out of Moscow. So they would own the land, and then they would build units on it, like duplexes or townhouses or small homes that people could get into for a lot cheaper, because they wouldn't be buying the land, they'd only be buying the house. Pullman is already in the middle of trying to start a 30 units for affordable housing. But also, I think that the long-term rental, we've been talking so much about short-term rentals. I think we're all tired of seeing really crappy long-term rentals in this town. And I would bring that up, and I would try and get that as something that we could start working towards, like a blight ordinance, which we already have, but maybe just doing a better job of that, or having the city do some sort of walkthrough of apartments before they go over to a second, from one renter to the next renter, some way to just keep those looking better and make them safer and better environments for the people that live in them.
Thanks. John?
Similarly, I'd be open to some sort of housing authority where we're creating stepping stones. I think that's the important thing. With any home that is going to be improved upon, the value is going to increase. As Pullman becomes a more attractive community, the values are going to increase. So I think there's so much of the housing issue that is just out of our hands, and the city can make a dent in it, as Tawny mentioned, working with community partners who are experts in that field. So I think that will be part of a solution. I think ways that we can enable, I think also flexible zoning, which is also written in the comprehensive plan, that we should work towards more flexible zoning. So we can allow people to get creative. When you empower people and let them get creative, they will solve problems. And that's how I think we can drive down costs. And then lastly, I'd say, and this is going to be a theme, and it's been a theme this campaign, is for city council and for city staff, being good at working with people. You know, I've talked to business owners, people who've wanted to build, developers, and I don't see a lot of unreasonableness. I see frustration with the city, and I'd like that to change. Rebuild trust and the ease of relationship and doing business.
Thank you. Trevor.
Thank you. I think these are all great points you both brought up, and definitely I haven't explored as deeply, but I think something like a land trust is something that we talked about and kind of explored yesterday would be super beneficial in our community. When I think about like a starter home, like my wife and I, our house is kind of really a starter home, and we paid north of $400,000 for it. That's huge, and definitely not in starter home price territory in today in this community. And I think we have to do something about that if we want to be able to pull more industry in and for industry to grow. WSU, SEL, other incubated, companies that maybe start here that are going to get a foothold and expand. I think high density like housing, similar in regard to what was Evolve, now Muse, right, where you have a storefront kind of below, you have apartments above. I think that's all options that are worth exploring.
Thank you. DiDi.
Yeah, I was most excited for this question. So I've been working with building the member base of the Pullman Tenants Union and reviving the Pullman Tenants Union. And then alongside that method of directly empowering renters, I am a renter, and I've been seeing our prices go up even after buildings and common spaces haven't improved. Even this morning, I had a student coming up to me and talking about how they have no working washing machines in their building. I know this for multiple buildings, and rent is increasing anyways. We need an ordinance that actually mandates that before a landlord can increase rent, they have to at least repair, if not improve a unit. And so empowering renters, because most of this community is renters.
Thank you. John.
Well, I think the rental angle has been mostly covered. I don't have much to add to it, but let's talk about home owning. If you are looking at the prices of housing right now or talking to any builders, they will tell you there is no such thing right now as affordable housing. Everybody's being priced out, it seems like. Even when it's a buyer's market, the home prices are just crazy. Some of the things I've been looking into, I really love the idea that the Tacoma Housing Authority came up with. It's a project called Szumlas, excuse me. Basically, it's a mixed rental and owned properties, kind of townhouse-like thing, with employees that actually live on site, people who do the yard work, people who handle the rent and the other responsibilities of the office. It makes them a stakeholder. It makes them actually feel like they have something that they own here, even if they are renting. And it really does make a huge difference. And as far as the rest of it, like I said earlier, civic growth goes hand in hand with economic growth. So the more civic growth we can have, the more we can grow economically as well.
Thank you. Bryan.
Okay, so I definitely like the idea of creative solutions. The other thing I think that we need to figure out is how to make sure it's easy to do business with the city. And yeah, there are a couple of examples that I can think of where I was talking to people and they knew a way to do something more efficiently and still safely. And they talked through it with the city and, you know, first they're like, you want to do what? And then they listened to it like, oh yeah, that would actually work, and that would pass and everything. So how do we kind of flip that around so if we have ways to do something more efficiently and safe and all of those things, how do we make that so that we actually teach that and encourage that and find ways to support that? I'll use kind of there's no way I'm fitting this in. So when I first started shopping for my first house, I was looking and it's all old small homes with like foundations crumbling in my budget. My budget was small. Luckily Copper Basin came in and right as the time we were looking, we ended up buying a house. They got creative. The spacing on between studs was a little bit, you know, wider and the porch, it was like 2.5, it was like just under code, then didn't have a railing. My kids thought it was great. When we got a newborn, we put up our own railing, and I think just figuring out those ways to be creative and efficient and lower cost at the same time.
Thank you. So next question is to you, Bryan. What would you do to ensure all residents feel included and heard in city decision making?
Yeah, I think there's a few different things. I've been going to most of the city council meetings or streaming a few of them, and they're brutal sometimes. They're long and they're actually getting a little bit better. And so I think trying to find some more ways to be able to, one, make those easier to listen to and easier to teach people how to interact with those. I think that's a good opportunity. I think finding ways, I think Tawny started doing this already with the newsletter, and we've had previous council people do that, finding ways to share that. I think having good exchanges online. I kept hearing about next door is like horrifying and scary and cranky, it kind of psyched me out for a long time. And finally I hopped on there, and you get a lot of people willing to share their honest opinion and have like good civil discourse. So I think finding all those different ways to hear it, and some of it you're gonna have to hear and take to city council, and some of it, hopefully they can come there and they can say it themselves instead of having to do a telephone game. So a little bit of everything.
John?
Well, I think as Bryan said, and Bryan and Tawny have both had a great digital game, I gotta tell you, man. You do a great job as far as being online and getting the information out there. Tawny is always doing videos and sharing information, which is half of what you need to do. You need to share that information. I mean, if people can't make the city council meetings, nobody wants to sit through the grind. Bryan's absolutely right. It can be tough watching it on YouTube, but you know, I mean, you dedicate yourself to it and you do it because that's kind of what we're all here for. As far as reaching out though, I'd go a little farther. I mean, I would create at minimum, a city email or a website that allows feedback. Or if you want to go all the way, and again, this is a very low-cost solution, create an app for the city of Pullman that allows you to give feedback. If you have concerns about a neighbor's lawn or whatever, you know, the normal HOA pain in the butt, or something like a pothole, or if you see something and you took a picture of it, you know, I don't know, a cougar in the backyard, that's what we had, something like that. You could share that with the city directly using an app, and it would be easy, simple. Everybody here probably has a cell phone that they could use to share a picture with. So that's just one idea.
Yeah, so I'm, I don't know, extremely extroverted, super easy to talk to, and always talking to, I mean, they don't ever really seem like strangers in this town, but everyone and anyone. I'm also super easy to contact. I prefer text, but whatever works. And I really want to leverage my involvement in various campus like RSOs, as well as in a few other community organizations here, such as like the Police Mutual Aid Network, the Tenants Union, obviously. I'm a member of the UCC, and in terms of RSOs, I am a member of SLAP, which is a student-led group looking at keeping Pullman accessible, and yeah, quite a few others.
Thank you.
So I have tried to be on social media as much as I can, and I think, yeah, Bryan and Tawny, you just tell me just be. Yeah, you do make us look bad. They're really good at it. Something that I was talking about just a little bit earlier today actually was I would love to have this sort of idea of these kind of like office hours, like maybe I'll call them coffee hours, right? And being in downtown businesses for a few hours a week and really using it as an opportunity to have people come and connect and share, you know, what's their worry or what's something that's going well or maybe that the city did well. Something to highlight would be fantastic, but more importantly is problems that they're facing, and being able to bring that voice to city council I think is largely important, and giving them that platform to share.
Thank you. First, to repeat what Bryan said, teaching people how to interact I think is really important. We met this young man at the farmer's market last week, and he asked me, did you read my post on Facebook? I'm like, well, I'm not on there all the time, so no, I haven't seen it yet. But it popped up the other, I think yesterday, and he had outlined, after he met with Mayor Benjamin, kind of how city government works. And I just thought that was so thoughtful. He had done it so succinctly. And it's like, yeah, we need more of that, just citizens stepping up to do that, and encouragement helps. I would take a more drastic step though. I'm a big fan, and I would push for this idea of neighborhood councils. It's a model that is used in some cities where we've got kind of sub-wards, right? So smaller polities, if you will, so that people, and imbue them with a small budget to do something with. People are involved when you give them responsibility, when you give them power to make change. People check out when you don't. And then lastly, I'd say even, you know, using data to understand who we've talked to and who we haven't, right? We open the door, but that's not enough. We need to understand who's coming in and who's not.
Thank you.
All right, well, I have a bit of an unfair advantage on everybody because my office hour is every hour. You always know where to find me, and I am always willing to talk. But I do think that outreach is a bit of a problem. I've already started getting emails from people with their thoughts and their issues, and I've made sure to email every single one of them back, and they always thank me and say, oh my gosh, someone actually emailed me back. But that's just it, like that's my job, is to be accessible. It's already built into what I do. I started the newsletter and I do the videos, and so communication and outreach for me is just already part of what I do. And I'm really looking forward to, if I get a chance, to do that at the next level as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So Tawny, here's another question. What is your experience dealing with contention in a group, and what methods would you use to smooth out arguments?
Well, you listen. You know, I mean, when people have an issue, a lot of time that's driven from something on the inside of them. There's anxiety around something. They don't have a good feeling about something, and you need to give them space to work through what it is that they're thinking, and to work through what it is that they really want, what the end result they really want is. And so you just have to give them a place where they can talk and be heard, and then you can start to re-engage with them. And sometimes you do have two people that really feel strongly about something. You know, depending on the personality, maybe they can do it in a group, maybe they need to be separated, I don't know. But it really just boils down to giving them each that chance to talk about it before that you bring them back in and start trying to work through that issue. Thank you.
John?
Could you please repeat the first part of the question?
Yeah, what is your experience dealing with contention in a group, and the methods you would use?
Yeah, cut my teeth on this at the Palouse Discovery Science Center and Pullman Community Montessori, and learned the hard way. I didn't have somebody kind of walking me through this. I was elected chair to the Palouse Discovery Science Center board within 3-4 months, so that tells you how bad the situation was at the time. And so that's part of my experience. I also grew up with 3 younger brothers. and conflict is just, you know, part of the day. But to come to it, how do we smooth things out? People, if their need is not met or they're not being heard, they're going to continue to escalate until they feel heard. So I think one is just literally validating the things that people are saying and not neglecting or pretending that they're not true. So I think that's vital. I think if we're talking about helping other people reach consensus, it's pointing them back to the goal. What do we have in common? What are we both working towards? And what's in service to that? And we need to let go of the things that are not, recognize where ego is at play, and what is that thing that's going to help Pullman as a community.
Thank you. Trevor?
So dealing with contention in a group, I definitely have a little bit of experience with this, and I don't think it really affected John or Bryan. At work, though, we have a database that we were moving from kind of an antiquity system and into a newer, more modern system. And in doing that, I was helping architect the back end of it. And when you start to move something out of a place, everybody who said that they don't care about it really, really cares about it and hates everything about the new place we're going to, even though they could be exactly the same. And so what we had to do was we had to have these feedback sessions, and then we sent out emails and collected just data, just raw data. And we were able to build an outline of what this new place should look like. And it's very similar to how it looked already. So we had to outline and build that, spec it, build it, and then get more feedback. Hey, does this look good? Do trainings, more feedback, and the list, and it just keeps going on and on until we have sort of this minimum viable product that looks good and feels good for everybody involved. So compromise is the big piece there.
Thank you. DiDi?
Well, one thing that I love about Pullman is that it has this small town warmth, and we don't have a whole lot of contention. You can see that in how well all 6 of us candidates get along. But before I lived in Spokane, I was an EMT and then a firefighter in Spokane. Before I lived in Pullman. I was, an EMT in Spokane, and working there taught me a lot about interacting with, or just de-escalation in general, interacting with anyone with lots of tension, Yeah. It's also experience that I hope to bring to City Council as part of my background.
John?
Well, I think actually everybody's hit it on the head more or less. John, I think comes closest to my belief on it. You need to listen to people. If you don't listen to people, understand where they're coming from, and I mean truly listen. You have to put yourself in their shoes to the point where you almost are commiserating with them and understand them. Only then can you truly help them. Only then can you move forward. Now, if you have 2 people that are fighting against each other, maybe it's an ego thing, maybe it's I don't know, some sort of philosophy thing, who knows. You have to understand where they're both coming from, and you have to find, and I don't use this phrase as much as I used to because it's kind of taken on a weird connotation, but you have to find that common ground where the 2 meet and work from there. Start from there, build from there, and eventually you'll find that, there's not that much difference. We're all going to the same direction. We're all going towards the same goal, and ultimately you will solve the problem most of the time. Other than that, sometimes it takes a little bit more, sometimes it takes some separation for a while, but ultimately, it's not an easy job, but it's something that can be approached and done eventually.
Thanks, John. Bryan?
So one of the earlier questions was, how do you feel about, or what would happen if there were multiple SEL people on council? And one of the things I love about SEL, and it's kind of an adjustment for some people when they come to SEL, is some of the culture things, like ask why 5 times, depersonalize the problem, listen to understand, build on some common beliefs. And those are things that is just part of our natural everyday business, and I've done that as a brand new employee, I've done it as a senior leader of had disagreements with Ed, have had disagreements with a brand new employee on their first day. And I think the important thing is listening and then getting to a point where you're understanding, okay, what problem are we trying to solve? And then start with the common parts and then work through the other pieces.
Hang on. We got a little cowbell here. All right, we're just checking on timing, so we can respect everyone's time tonight. Yeah, we're checking on our time, so we can respect, all of your time. So, Bryan, if there are 2 worthy proposals and you can only budget for one, what criteria would you use to select one? The next part, what would you tell the supporters of the unfunded proposal?
So I think this goes back to one of the things I was talking about early on, is I want us to build a goal, a vision, a culture of that benchmark for college towns. And as we start thinking about how do we do that, what's important to that, what's going to benefit the community, how's that going to make a difference, that's how I would prioritize which one. And then as I talk to the people that, it's like the thing that we're going to have to wait on or not do, I talk about how I see that vision going forward with that and how it plays into it, and that's how we ended up prioritizing it.
Well, if there are 2 worthy proposals, that means there's 2 things we should probably do. So first thing I would do is sit down and looking at it logically, which offers the most benefit to the city at large? Which offers the most benefit to the most people? Which offers the obvious advantage? Now, if they're completely equal, but we know that never happens in real life, or if one is a little more within our budget, then it makes the decision a little bit easier. As far as choosing that would seem like it would be the obvious answer. But for the people that did not get their the one they were supporting passed, again, it's worthy. Tell them it's worthy. Tell them it's something you need to revisit. Because frankly, like I said at the beginning, it's something that's worthy and we need to do it. So let's plan on doing it. We're just going to do this first part first, and then we'll get to that part. And that should, theoretically keep everybody happy. But again, we know that's not going to happen either.
Yeah, so as I'm sure you all know, I'm humanitarian focused, human rights focused, and so I will always choose to prioritize protecting and supporting our most vulnerable populations. So out of 2 proposals, I would go with the one that I believe does that more. With that said, like John Mark was saying, if they're both worthy proposals, and then it's not a no, it's a not yet. Yeah.
Trevor?
Thank you. Just like you said, John Mark, if there are 2 worthy proposals, it very well might be that we're going to do both, but one might happen before the other. I think what we need to be thinking is what is going to have the largest net benefit on Pullman's long term. We need to really extract as much data as possible and what that decision will look like and how it will impact us in the long term. And that way we can be sure that we're making the right decision and we're taking the right measures and making really data-driven focused choices. I think communicating to the other maybe group of supporters and the other proposal on why it's not going through yet is super important too, and how we might move forward from here and what the future might hold.
Mine was pretty similar, but I'm going to repeat it so you know that's where I stand. As far as how, I think number 1 check is it attuned or aligned to the goals of the community? Second, are we maximizing value? So are we getting the most out of this? Will it provide the most value to our constituents? Third, understand and capitalize on our expertise. Are we good at doing this? Or if there's two competing proposals and we might not have the capacity or do the other one as well, that would make me lean toward the other one. Like Trevor said, contemplate the long-term implications. So what does this mean for Pullman 7 generations from now? And data. What historical data do we have here? What can we predict will happen based on data that we're using? And then as far as what I would tell supporters of the unfunded, very similar, that, hey, I'm not going to give up on your idea. How can I help improve it?
Yeah, all right. This is actually happening at the city right now. There is the southern truck route and bypass that is going on, and there are many different competing and worthy elements of it, and they're having to choose which one they want to do first. Do they want to do the southern truck route, or do they want to work on Bishop? And there's people who want both and people who want neither. And they're doing an excellent job. I don't know if you've seen it, but Adam has put out a number of videos explaining what the choices are, why the choices are being made, and how they can be done in order. So this is actually something that the city is, I think, doing a really good job of right now on that particular thing. And it's really about what has the best net benefit. That's where you have to start, and then making sure that you do a really good job of explaining to people in the broadest way that you can why you started there and how you're going to come back to the other proposal and make that work if you need to someday.
Thank you, Tawny. It is time for closing remarks. And Tawny, we will start with you, and you have 2 minutes.
All right. When they did the downtown renovation, which I was all for, nobody ever came and knocked on my door and asked me any questions. And that was what got me into this race. I really love Pullman. I had never had a bad experience with Pullman before then. And I really hope that it continues that way, because this is a really great and special place to live. But it got me motivated and activated to come out and get in that room and to help solve the problems and to work with the city. As I said before, I am a 6th generation Pullmanite. I've been here my whole life and I'm not going anywhere. And I'm just excited to be part of the solution. And that was really it. Thank you.
Thank you. John.
I love Pullman. And I think many people who live here do. I think a lot of people have it hard in Pullman. And I think if we empower those who have not had as many opportunities and have greater barriers, and get them involved in government, whether that's committees or whether that's civic engagement through volunteerism, we will see a greater net benefit long term. We need to build our base and focus on our foundation as a community right now. When those bigger opportunities come for us, we'll be ready to grab them. I will ask you, the voter, what's it going to take to change Pullman in the right ways? How are we going to get a more vibrant downtown? How are we going to create more homegrown businesses? How are we going to connect more parks? How are we going to get the CAP trail? And I think it all comes down to what, as I've been saying all night, educating people, empowering them. I think the city can play a great role in becoming more of the brains of the system. Hosting or owning toolkits, sharing those toolkits, playbooks. How do we do this? How do you do it well? What do we know from looking across all the other cities? How do we harness our collective knowledge and share that and make it so that other people can contribute instead of gatekeeping and instead of trying to hold kind of the power at the top. So I believe in Pullman. That's why I'm running, and I'd appreciate your vote. Thank you. And I guess we got a little bit of time, so I want to take the moment to thank League of Women Voters for everybody who has taken the chance to comment online, to share, to raise the level of dialogue and discourse in this campaign. It's been awesome to see that. It's higher than I've ever seen it. So thank you for that. And I'll leave it there.
Thanks, John. Trevor.
Thank you. One of the things when I was young, I was starting to get civically involved, was this idea of voting every opportunity I possibly could. And I'm still a firm believer, you should go vote every single time you can, and you should complain every single time you can when the person you voted for does something you do not like. And, you know, when you have the ability, you should run as well and be that change, and that's really why I'm here, and I'm sure all of us are up here as well. I want to bring a culture of getting to yes and being a voice for the constituency, Ward 2 of Pullman at large, and I think that we need to be making good data-driven decisions and making the most tactical decisions that are what's best for Pullman's long term. I think we can do small reversible experiments and we can see what's working, what's not working, and how it can be better. And I would love to see us all come together, making Pullman stronger, resilient, and ready for the future. I really do think that we'll be planting the trees for future generations to enjoy the shade, not just literally downtown, but figuratively as well. And there should be handouts on everybody's seats that have my contact info on them, my email, my phone number, my website. So please, 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 please reach out, fill out my contact form, I'll add you to my emailing list, and I'd love to hear from you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so as I said in my opening remarks, I care deeply about this community. Pullman has become my home, and I would be grateful to have a chance to give back. I also stand to protect the rights and decency of all people, doing whatever I can to listen to the community and advocate for everyone. I know it's a nonpartisan position, but human rights is a nonpartisan position, or is a nonpartisan thing. And I want to make this city more focused on the people who live here, and I want to fight to elevate the most marginalized voices in the community and speak to protect our most vulnerable community members, such as students, renters, and the working class. I would love to have your support, and if you want to learn more, you can get in contact. You can also go to my website, didiforpullman.org. And yeah, thank you to everyone who's here.
Thank you. John.
You know, it's amazing sitting up here with this group of people, and it's kind of hard to believe it's probably one of the last times we're all going to be together like this. And I just want to say real quick, I appreciate each and every one of you for standing up and supporting democracy and voicing your concerns and being here for the people of Pullman. Whether I'm elected or Bryan's elected or any combination of people are elected up here, I have no doubt that Pullman's going to be in good, solid hands. That said, I want to say that I have been a communicator most of my life, and as such, when I see things happening in Pullman, one of the things that made me run was looking in from the outside. I saw Pullman having a difficult time communicating internally and with the public. Confirmed in conversations with several supporters and just conversations with business owners. High-level administrators giving an interview while effectively avoiding the sharing of any relevant facts. That's always impressed me in a way, not a good way. Information regarding what's currently happening in city government, or a member of the public, city staff, or somebody serving on a city commission, a public commission rather, who is not feeling heard. These things should not happen, and everybody should feel empowered to share that information as much as they can. Of course, there are certain councilors like Nathan who in the past have gotten in trouble for sharing a little too much, but there is a fine line, and as long as you don't cross that fine line, I think you're doing the job well. My father insisted I vote when I came of age, and that, like I said, that is how you support democracy, is by voting. And I encourage each and every one of you to get out and vote for one of us. Voting is making a statement, right? It's sharing your voice. And I, as a communicator, as always, want to listen. I would love to have your vote, and if you want to know more, visit votejohnmark.com. That's 3 4-letter words, votejohnmark.com. And I'm looking forward to serving as your next city councilor, if you will have me.
Thank you. Bryan.
All right, well, first, let's just get the elephant out of the room. So I'm not a communicator. I do not have a radio voice, but I am a problem solver. And in fact, a couple of the things we talked about endorsements earlier, I did early on ask for the realtor's endorsement, and I did get it. It was the only organized endorsement that I asked for, and I got it. What I am proud of is the endorsements that I did get, and they were personal endorsements from people that I used to work with, people that I used to work for. Ed Schweitzer, who very rarely writes endorsements for local candidates, wrote a really nice, like humbling endorsement in the Daily News. And then after that, the next week, I didn't know this was coming, but Brandon Chapman wrote a follow-on one, and one I've known for almost 30 years. The other one I knew for like 3 months, maybe less. And one thing I am committed to is being a champion for Pullman with a customer service mindset, looking for ways to help us think about how to serve you and how to, again, become that benchmark for a college town that we're all will be so proud to live in and to be part of, and to encourage people to come to visit, to stay, to keep their ideas here if they're here at school, whatever it is. And again, the other thing I'd like to just really quickly say is, like, I love that civil discourse. Like, you can stay, you can talk to me afterwards, you can send me an email, you can get on Nextdoor and be, again, it's been awesome, actually. So, and I'd love to hear from you. That's been one of the amazing things about this whole thing.
Well, thank you all so much for your time and your thoughts and your responses, and I think you deserve some applause.
I just like, can I just say something? So we had some questions that were directed at particular candidates, and obviously we don't have time to get to those. So afterwards, I think they'll hang around probably, and if you have those questions for them, ask them.
So what Linus just said is that we had some questions directed at individual candidates. So if your question was not covered, please stay around and talk to the candidate. The library has to close it at 7, so, okay. So we better wrap this up. So I'm going to just finish up here.
Thanks, man.
But I would say, just really quickly, that, like all of us said, like, reach out to us. Seriously, if you message us, email us, text us, whatever, we're going to answer your questions.
Great.
Or at least try to.
Thank you all for being here, and just to remind you that the last day to register by mail or online is October 27th, and we have registration forms in the back there, and you can receive some assistance in the next 5 minutes. And ballots will be mailed starting this week. They're already out? Okay, I haven't seen mine yet. If you do not receive your ballot by next week, please contact the Whitman County Election Office. Election Day is November 4th. And don't forget to sign your ballot. So to ensure your ballot is counted, use a drop box or make sure your ballot is mailed by Friday, October 31st, Halloween. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you all again.